Hello! Right, we are finally filming the birth story. I'm sorry it's taken so long. It's like 6 weeks. But when you've got a newborn, there's not much time. He's asleep right now in the lounge, so we thought we'd film and tell you guys about our birth story. Liam's obviously here because he witnessed it and probably remembers a lot more than me. We've got notes on his phone, so if we're looking down, that's why. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Okay, so where do we start? Let's start with day before due date, 21st of January. We woke up early, didn't we?
Yeah, so if you follow my Instagram, you'll know I get hungry. I was getting hungry in my pregnancy at like 4 a.m. all the time. So I was waking up or coming downstairs and like having some toast or something. So
this time we both woke up about
Yeah.
3:30 in the morning. I think it was quite early, and Jess decided to. Well, we both thought let's get up. I had work that day, but we thought let's get up, and we laid in bed for half an hour just talking, and then next minute Jess wakes. Jess says I'm going downstairs. She's hungry. I thought I'll give it another go at going back to sleep. So Jess goes downstairs. I try to go back to sleep, and literally 10 minutes later, Jess goes downstairs.
I go downstairs, I put some porridge oats in the microwave, and I was like, oh, I remember this lady, she was talking about how she did like 50 squats a day that helped her waters break and her go into labour. So I was like, I'm going to do some squats. So I decided to do some squats. I did 2 squats and my waters broke.
So literally next minute all I hear is, babe, shouting up the stairs. I'm like, we've got neighbours, what's going off here? And she says, I think my waters are broken. So I literally fly out of bed. By this point, I'm wide awake. Run downstairs.
I've never seen someone come downstairs so quickly.
And I'm expecting like the whole kitchen to be flooded. There's a few specks on the floor. So I said, babe, are you sure? This is it just looks like
I'm standing there with like my legs wide open.
Yeah, it's still there. She must have not moved for about 10 minutes. got down and she was, there was a little bit of water on the floor, and I was like, well, you sure that's not just come from, she was in the freezer, so sure that's not just ice that's just
I was near the freezer, I wasn't in the freezer.
And then she was like, no. So then I was like checking my phone and stuff, saying what's it meant to
look like, smell like.
So it says it's meant to look like
clear,
just
or it can
clear.
have a bit of pinkish in it.
I can have a bit of pinkish in it or whatever. And it's meant to smell like semen, like cum. So there's me, get down on all fours and sniff it. And it does, it smells like cum. So then I was like, okay, yeah, it definitely is it. We're buzzing by this point. We're thinking, oh, wow. And then next minute, more, you go to the toilet and
more keeps coming.
Starts to come, and was like, right, it's happening today. It's got to be the day. So we rang up the hospital, birthing centre, midwife, and they told us to come in, check for infection, all that sort of stuff.
Just make sure it was my waters.
Yeah, make sure it was her waters, so we can prepare. So we went in, and yeah, everything was. Waters
are
broken. So we went there. That must have been 5 a.m. Was it 5 a.m? Yeah, 5 a.m.
My waters broke at 4:15.
Yeah, hospital at 5:17.
5:17.
Checked
and I had to go in by myself, obviously, because of COVID. So Liam was out in the car park.
And they basically says that she'll go home, get some rest, sleep, because she was tired, get some rest. I was planning on going to work, come home, go to work as normal. If she calls me, I come home, that sort of stuff. And we got back home. It says at 6:10. We both decided to get in bed. I was going to give it till, because I don't go to bed. I don't leave to go to work till about 7. So I thought we'll get in bed for a little bit, just chill, just can go to sleep. And then it was.
As soon as we got into bed, and I thought.
Yeah, as soon as we started to relax, that was it.
Yeah, as soon as I started to relax, that's the key. As soon as I started to relax and think I'm going to sleep, that's when my surges kicked in. They felt more like period pains. They weren't like that intense, but I could definitely feel they were starting to come.
Yeah. So I decided not to go to work at that point. I thought, no, I'm not going to work. I'm not taking this risk. And then it just started getting
more intense.
Yeah, more intense for Jess. Oh yeah, here we go. Do you want me to talk about this bit?
Yeah, whatever.
So they started to get more intense, and so did Jess's toilet time. So she started getting a lot of the contractions weren't there were more deep breaths, weren't they?
Yeah, they were really controllable. They were fine.
Hypnobirthing was coming into play by this point, so she was really controlling things, doing her breathing techniques and that sort of stuff. And then Jess goes for poo number 1. So she goes to the toilet. She's having surgeries at this point, but she's going to the toilet, and you're not normally as regular as that's the word. So
yeah.
And yeah, she went to the toilet number 2, and it was probably the biggest doo-doo I've ever seen you do in my life. And then surgeries kept coming.
Put my poo on Instagram. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it kept coming, and then again she went on the toilet again.
Yeah.
And
I'm also weeing all the time as well, by the way. Constantly. Like, it wasn't my waters, it was like I was constantly weeing urine.
Yeah, so it was just...
Yeah, and then it just started to pick up, basically.
Yeah, it started picking up again. I've wrote down in my notes that she went for a poo again.
Yeah.
So she came back downstairs after this point, and that's when she went to the toilet again, and a mucus plug
started to come out.
Yeah, so that, if you don't know, is the brownie.
Yeah, so it's like a big bogey, but it can come out in parts, and mine was coming out in parts.
It's like a blob, and it's basically what
holds.
It's what stops the infections from getting into the baby, etc. More leaking and some period type discomfort. So again, my surgeries. Yeah, surgeries, but more not massive sort of pains. And this was at 7 a.m. Yeah. So again, 7 a.m. more toilet trips with around 3 more surgeries, and she's weeing a lot. Yeah, I was weeing a lot. So there's a massive, within an hour, there's a massive. It's starting to get the surgeries are starting to get closer and closer together.
Hi guys, the video stopped for some reason, so we're carrying on.
Yeah, so basically the surgeries started coming closer and closer together. We was following an app. What app was it? Freya. So it was following the Freya app.
Which is by the Positive Birth Company.
And if you start if they become more frequent, more closer together, then the app will tell you if you're going into, is it induced labour? Established labour. So if you're going into established labour. Now, our app was telling us we was going to established labour.
But my surges weren't madly intense.
They weren't strong.
But they were just more frequent.
For me, I see Jess as she's strong. So I'm like, she's struggling. I think she needs to go in. But I thought she might be still shielding how uncomfortable it could be. Because I know what she's like. She'll just try and fight it. So... but we made that decision, let's go in. So we drove her in.
4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
well done, darling.
In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4,
You'll be here soon, darling.
6, in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4.
What time is this?
It don't say on there actually. I think it was about 7. Let's have a look. See if it comes on.
I know, because 11.
Oh no. So yeah, so it was in the bath. So Jess had a bath. So they started getting closer and closer together. We did time them. So there was 35-second surges, 4 minutes in between, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. They were starting to become
more towards the end. It was
2 minutes in between each surge, and they were for anywhere between 30 seconds and a minute and a half. So we was like pretty concerned that it was coming on. So we did make the trip. Yeah. We packed up. We went. We got there, and
again I had to go in by myself.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
No, she didn't. So we went in, and then they started to come on a bit more strong. I had a video, didn't I, of you?
Yeah. If I've got it, I'll insert it, by the way.
So I took a video of Jess, and she was walking around, marching around, taking deep breaths. Still at this point, we're following the hypnobirthing techniques, etc. So we did feel quite in control at that point, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then, so the woman, the midwife came in. She was really cool. She was really nice, chilled, and that's when you started to check you, weren't she? So
she said basically when you get examined, you can only get examined 3 times in total before they start to say it's like more risk of infection if you keep getting examined. So she says if I examine you this time, you only get another 2 examinations. And I said that's fine, because I think it's once you're at 4 centimeters. You're allowed to stay, and so can your partner. But if you're not reached 4 centimeters dilation, then you can stay, but you've got to stay by yourself, which I did not want to do. Anyway, so I said, yeah, let's examine me. Let's see where I am. So she examined me, and it's horrible getting on that bed because I hated being like on my back. I liked being in like a squat position or all fours, or even just standing was quite nice. So she examined me, and I was 2 centimeters dilated. But she said my cervix was thinning. So
and she said, this is the worst thing about it, the whole situation. She says the baby's head's down, and he has hair.
She's like, do you know if he's got loads of hair? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you've got loads of hair.
Basically just told us, thanks. So yeah, he apparently had lots of hair. So yeah, it was that point then when we knew that she was going to say, well, you either go home or you can stay, but Liam will have to go home. We both made that decision. Well, I asked Jess, and we made the decision together that we'll go home, and we can kind of carry on the labour at home. We're in a comfortable. Bearing in mind we're 20 minutes from home, and 20 minutes doesn't seem that far away, but believe me, it is when
when you have surgeries,
So we decided to go home. On the way home, still in a position of discomfort for Jess. The surgeries were obviously getting closer and closer together because time was going on. We got home. Jess, the most comfortable position for her was in the bath. So that's the first thing we did. We got home, we ran a bath, and from that point onwards,
it just picked
up. We got home at 11.
No, we went still at 11.
Sorry, yes. We got back at 1 p.m. and then from 1 p.m. till 2:55, so 3 p.m. She was in the bath the whole time. So she was in the bathtub because it was that was the most comfortable position.
Yeah.
And when I say they got worse and worse and worse, they did. The surgeries was something from experience. I don't really want to see Jess in that discomfort again. It's not nice to see. You feel helpless, and I tried my best to do what I can. I was getting cold flannels, putting it on her head,
getting me drinks, getting me snacks.
Snack, because obviously women, they're going through a lot.
They say it's like running half a marathon. That's what it's like. The energy that you
use.
It
was tiring me. Never mind what Jess was going through. So.
I was like a whale in the bath. I was like,
yeah, doing my best to try and make her feel comfortable, even though that wasn't really, that was out of the equation, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can never feel comfortable.
So snacks, plenty of snacks. That's my advice to anyone who is trying to help their wife through labour. That's the little man now crying. Plenty of snacks, water, cold flannels, dab the head. Just try and be as supportive as you can. I do remember at one point saying, "It's all right, babe. what did I say?
I get it, I know,
I understand. She's like, you do not understand. So
it's like you don't have a clue.
You don't have a clue. So you get as much as you're trying to help. Do prepare yourself for the snaps, and because they're obviously in a pain that you will never understand. Or
I don't want to use discomfort. Hypochondria.
And yeah, so she was she was in some real discomfort, and it was horrible to see. Like I said, I felt helpless, but we got through it, and it got to a point where the surges was contractions, as other people like to call them. They were becoming longer and longer, more painful. It went from deep breaths, like, to like moaning. So that's when I started to see Jess at the worst, shall I say, where there's a lot of movement in the bath. Water was going everywhere. She was really howling down the house. Surges they went from 1.5 minutes to the longest one that I timed was 6 minutes and 25 seconds.
And they were so intense. Like
yeah, it
so intense.
It was horrible. It was horrible to see her in that discomfort. I didn't like it. I've never seen it before, and knowing that she couldn't, as strong as she is, she was struggling. So I decided to call the midwife and say, is this normal? 6 minutes, 6 minute surges. The time in between was 20 seconds in some cases. They were very short. And basically, the woman told me it was fine. The midwife said it was fine. It can happen. So I was like, okay, cool. Jess was barking out, why are you ringing the midwife? I'm fine, we'll be fine.
Because I didn't want it to be that I wasn't 4 centimetres and they would tell me that I'd have to come back again. So I wanted to make sure that I was like past 4 centimetres.
So so we got to this point where I put the phone down from the midwife. We gave it a little bit longer, and I think it would have been about 20 minutes. And within that 20 minutes, I made the decision of, I can't see this no more. We're going back to hospital. Whether you're not 4 centimetres dilated, even though I knew in my mind she was, there was no way on earth she was only 3 centimetres or still 2 centimetres dilated by this point. 4 hours had gone by. 4 hours had gone by, and she was acting completely different to what she was a few hours before. It went from nice controlled surges to out of control surges. So we made that decision. Well, I did, and getting the transition of getting her out the bath took probably about 20 minutes to half an hour. It was a struggle because she was in that much discomfort. Obviously, the surges were close together, so her getting up and then getting out the bath to then getting her dressed, because she couldn't get dressed on her own, so I had to dress her myself. That was difficult because you putting the bra on, or you putting her trousers on. You get one leg in the trouser. She has a surge. She goes down on the floor, or she gets in a position where it's comfortable, and then you've literally got 30 seconds to get the next trouser leg on. So it was a challenge. So then we went downstairs again. Downstairs, you're going through surges, getting the bags packed again, and getting in the car was even more of a challenge. So a quick surge before she got in the car, drove to the hospital, and we pulled in. Oh yeah, I nearly had a scrap in the car park. Luckily I held it together, because if I didn't have a wife that was in labour, I probably would have laid him out, and that's not even a joke. I was stressed.
I had my eye mask on as well, so I was like, couldn't hardly see.
So this guy tried to steal my park. Well, not. I drove in, and there was a parking space. In fact, I just wanted to drive past him, and he thought I was stealing his parking space. So I drove round, and the guy just came out and said, "Oh, you can park there," because he could see that obviously was in a rush and you see Jess in the background, but the other guy, all he wanted to do was find a parking slot. So I got in, and then I got out just as I pulled in, got out, and he was walking by, so he must have found a parking spot. And that's when I had to hold it together, because if Jess was in labour, I would have dropped him. I really would. Sorry about that, but it was tough times, tense. Anyway, we got her in. She was surging all the way down the hall to the reception of where we was going, wasn't you?
Yeah.
Like howling down the place. Everybody could hear her, but that's obviously normal in a place of birth. So we got it in there.
And I hadn't had any pain relief, had I? Had I had any paracetamol or anything?
Yes, she had 500 milligrams of paracetamol, because that's what the midwife recommended.
Yeah.
So that's all she'd had by this point, just paracetamol, 500 milligrams tablets before we left. That didn't do anything, if I'm being honest. That's what was recommended by the midwife, so that's what we did. And then we got there, we got into the room, and they put us into the nice calming room where we was with the birthing pool in there, where we was meant to give birth. And it took them a little bit too long to get down there, so I had to.
Like, I was on the floor, like, pushing.
Jess was more or less pushing.
I was like, Done, I'm pushing. Where the hell are they?
Yeah, so she was in a squat position, tight up against the tub, in the corner of the.
All I wanted them to do was start running that bar.
And she was starting to like really grunt, like as if she was squeezing.
Yeah,
for it to
and that's
come
the
out.
transition stage. So where like you start to push, that's when you start to transition. And your body just like does it naturally, because it's like, yeah, it's your baby's ready now.
So I went down to the reception. I went, right, you need to hurry up. You're taking far too long. My wife looks like she's about to have the baby. There was about 5 of them all stood around looking at a clipboard. So again, I come back, and it still took them 5-10 minutes to come down. I just want the midwife. She was talking to you, wasn't she? And she was like, yeah, you can tell that this is more of a labour.
She said, like, you're definitely more than 4 centimetres, because she says, if I examine you now, you've only got 1 left. And I was like, but what if I'm not past 4? She's like,
so
no,
Jess didn't even want to. So this was the same woman, bearing in mind this was the same woman that we had in the morning. This is the same midwife that we had.
Who told us that she
most
had
of
his
the day.
hair.
Yeah, so, right, we got her on the bed to examine again, and that was, again, a struggle. We got her on the bed. The woman, the midwife, I keep saying the woman, the midwife then examined Jess again, glove on, hand up, and baby was basically on his way out, fully dilated, wasn't it?
She said, there's good news and there's bad news. And I said, what's the good news? She says, the good news is you're 10 centimetres
So
dilated.
she was 10 centimetres. So basically, Jess just went through a whole labour without any pain relief whatsoever, the whole time. So this is my point. This is my. I've seen Jess in the bathtub at home in full on labour without pain relief. So to see that, and to see any woman in that discomfort was mind blowing. So we got to that point where she was like,
yeah, so she said, you're 10 centimetres. And I said, what's the bad news?
And the bad news was that
baby's breech.
Baby's breech. So head wasn't down.
It's bum down.
Bum down. And his legs was by his ears. So from that point, this is where it all went downhill. So everything that we went through, with hypnobirthing just gone. Like
it wasn't, because it still really helped us through labour, and it really helped my mindset during pregnancy. So I really, really recommend.
No, I do recommend it. Yeah, it is good, but also
it's just a shame that I couldn't.
My views on it is that they need to prepare not just the woman for the alternative, but also the male, because we're seeing everything. So as much as hypnobirthing helps me and helps Jess be comfortable and calm during pregnancy, what about the alternative? What about how if it doesn't go to plan, how are you meant to handle the situation? So I do believe they need to have something that's a bit more on that topic. But yeah,
so she said, yeah, your baby's breech.
So she said baby's breech.
I need to go and get a doctor to double check that.
No, she says to me, Jess, at this point, Jess was, she obviously can remember probably little bits, but I remember everything. And she says, try not to be too worried. But we're going to have a doctor to come in and a nurse and a few other people, so it might not be in the same sort of feel that you wanted to have with the hypnobirthing, relaxed sort of calm environment. Like I was like, okay, cool. So literally, no word of a lie, about around 8 people burst through the door. Turn the lights on, so that went out the window. Jess was like, can you turn the lights off, please? She was on the bed having really bad surges, still no pain relief by this point. The doctor had to check her again, so bearing in mind this is the 3rd time she's been checked, just to check that the midwife was right. And yeah, there was doctors in there, everyone. So again, when midwife was right, doctor says baby's breech, and then it all just went mad again. So they had to, everyone started speeding things up. I was looking at doctors, I was looking at the nurses, I was looking at everybody starting to plan what was going to happen, because obviously it's a process that needs to be sorted as soon as possible. So the woman came in, I never forget, the woman came in and she basically dangled a pink form in front of Jess's face that she needed to sign, which was a waiver, asking us, we can have the baby now, we can have the baby, we can give birth to the baby breech, or
she was like,
you have to have emergency C-section.
You've got 2 options, and you need to make the choice really quick. You either have this baby right now, or you have emergency C-section, which basically was happening already before I even had the choice, because everyone was preparing for the C-section. Everyone was rushing around.
It was the safest option, because there could have been serious technical difficulties with the baby if they had.
The baby could have been. They were saying the baby could have been really poorly. The head could have got stuck.
The baby might not make it.
There could be loads of complications. The safest option is for you to have a C-section.
So we both made that decision pretty sharpish. I already made that decision because, but
I hadn't.
My heart had just dropped. I'm by this point I'm getting worried now. I'm thinking of him. I'm thinking of my wife. I'm thinking. You think the worst. The worst thing crosses your mind. You think, am I going to lose my wife? Am I going to lose my son at this point? It's horrible. You can't explain that feeling. So my first thought was, right, C-section straight away. Jess already had an extra lobe. She had 2% placenta.
I had an additional lobe on my placenta.
Additional lobe on the placenta. So
there was already a risk that even if I gave birth vaginally, that both parts of my placenta wouldn't come out, and I'd have to go into surgery anyway. It wouldn't be like a C-section, it would be going up the vagina. But that was really a complication before. But in my head, I was like, well, can I not birth the baby, breech? But because they were saying there were so many complications and I had to make the decision there and then, it was like C-section. And they were already preparing that already. Like, the room was getting prepared for that.
So we signed the form. Jess signed the form. I think she signed last year's date, but
yeah, because basically by this point they then give me gas and air for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, she had gas and air for probably about 3 minutes.
Oh my god, that felt like heaven. Those 5 minutes of gas and air felt like absolute heaven.
Well, she probably had about 3 puffs, to be honest. It wasn't much.
Honestly, it was amazing, whatever it did. But I did not sign that waiver correctly.
So she signed the waiver, and then, like I said, there was about 8 people in this room. We had to move from that room to a emergency ward, which obviously had all the right equipment to deliver the baby. So we had emergency C-section. There's 3 different categories. There's category A, B, and C. Is that right?
1, 2, 3.
So 1, 2, and 3, not A, B, and C. So category 1 is
the worst.
Is basically the way they put it, because I was asking what's categories. Like, can you give to me what's bad about category 1 if that's the worst sort of? It's like, oh no, it's not the worst. Basically, it's the quickest way to get the baby out or something like that. So it was basically their way of saying it's
emergency. Like, it's kind of like life or death.
Yeah,
C-section.
it was. Yes.
It needs to be done quickly, basically.
Yeah, it needs to be done quickly. So they wheeled us round. Well, wheeled Jess round. I had to get into scrubs, so I had to get into the full PPE, mask, the whole thing.
And they rolled me over, didn't they?
They take Jess straight into the room.
Injected the epidural.
What was going through my mind at that time was horrible. I'm putting these clothes on, and you're thinking the worst. Again, like I said, it's not something that mentally you can prepare yourself for. So I went into the room. I couldn't even get near Jess. There was definitely around 10 people that was in the room. Bed in the middle, and I had to sit in the corner. I couldn't go near Jess until they told me that they'd have to give her a epidural. So I seen them turning her over. I think it's
called a spinal.
I think it was an epidural. So it numbs you from here down.
Yeah, like your hips down.
Yeah, and they said if that didn't work, they'd have to put on under local anaesthetic, so it should be asleep, and then I wouldn't be able to be in the room anyway. So I'm watching from this point in the corner of the room, in bits. So I'm really trying to fight the tears at this point. I've got a big lump in my throat. People are asking me if I'm all right, and I'm just like, do I look all right, or how can I be all right in this point where I'm looking at my wife getting an injection with 10 people around her. Again, the worst thing I'm thinking at that point is I might lose my son here. I might lose my wife and my son. I might lose my wife and only have my son. So you're trying to prepare yourself, and you just can't. It was the most difficult, most challenging and difficult thing I've ever probably faced mentally. But she had the epidural, and as soon as it started to kick in, I was able to go over and hold her hand and be close to Jess and support her.
And all I was doing was I was just apologising, wasn't I? Because I was so prepared mentally, because all throughout my midwife appointments, like my check-ins, like my checkups, I was told baby was head down. So in my head, I was so prepared for a vaginal birth. Even at 2 centimetres, the midwife said, head's down, he's got loads of hair. I was so prepared to have a vaginal birth. So to go into sudden emergency C-section, it just threw me off, and I just kept on apologising to Liam, saying, I'm so sorry. Like,
it wasn't to me. It was.
And I just wanted
even that was hard to take in. Jess kept apologising to everyone that was in the room, to herself, and that was so hard to see. That Jess had kind of felt like she failed herself, and it was not her fault at all. She really wanted to have a vaginal birth, and she kept shouting that out. I really wanted to. I think at one point she went, I really want to have a vagina, and I'm trying to enlighten the mood and go, babe, you've got one. But I'm still in bits at this point. I'm trying to stay positive, and that was tough. But yeah,
So they did the test. They sprayed me on my legs, sprayed me on my shoulders. I could feel the spray on my shoulders, couldn't feel the spray on my legs. Did it on my hips, did it on my waist, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't feel anything. I was completely numb, and they were ready to go.
Yeah, so half curtain went up, shall I say, and I was holding Jess's hand. She couldn't feel anything at this point. The anaesthesiast was incredible.
Amazing. Do you know what? That anaesthesiast, if you are watching this and you know who I am and who we are and what we went through, thank you so much. You were amazing.
He was so cool.
You were the best.
He was so relaxed. He was helping Jess, making her feel comfortable as much as I was. He was sat next to me while I was with Jess, just reassuring really. And they cut her open and started to deliver the baby. They was ragging her all over the place. It's crazy.
I can feel the tugging on
So
me.
you understand the pain after. For a woman, it's a 6-week turnaround. It's a 6-week recovery, and that's probably why, because they're really pulling the baby out. But baby came out. We didn't hear him for a good 30 seconds. He wasn't crying, and
that time felt like the longest time ever, and I was like, where is he? Where is he? And bearing in mind, I wanted skin to skin straight away, within a C-section or within a vaginal birth. That was in my birth preferences, and obviously I didn't get that.
So yeah, he came out, didn't you, little man?
Bless you. Bless you.
So
he looks angry.
So he came out. We heard him cry, and the first thing we did was cry our eyes out, didn't we, babe?
Yeah.
And we was there. Baby basically came to us within a minute or something. Just a couple of checks, and he was so alert. He was basically like this.
He was like looking. And
it was the best feeling ever, wasn't it?
It was.
To have him there, and it was just a massive relief that had just happened so quickly that I can't explain. It was just.
But that midwife, she was crying because obviously she was wrong from the get-go.
No, well, what happened? They took us round, did a few extra checks, took us up to the ward, and that's where they came up. The midwife came up to. I think she was finishing work at that point. And I asked her, and this is the thing about, none of this would have happened at all. We wouldn't have had emergency C-section if that midwife, if she didn't send us home the first time round at 11 a.m. and if she
got it incorrect. She basically told us baby's head was down, so she was feeling a hairy arse, not a head. He's not got a hairy
I don't get it. So when she told us that she could feel hair, and she told us that he had hair,
that was
incorrect information that she gave us.
And obviously for me, mentally, it's wrong information for me, because I'm thinking, great, he's head down, I'm gonna have this vaginal birth I've always wanted, I'm on the right track, and she was wrong, and she shouldn't have sent us home because I was breech. Obviously, she didn't know that because she thought he was head down, but I shouldn't have been sent home because I actually had a breech baby. And it's actually quite dangerous to labour to 10 centimetres with a breech baby, with no pain relief, at home, not around any doctors or midwives. So it was actually really dangerous for me to come back. Not that they were aware of that, but that shouldn't have happened.
And if I'm being honest, if I wasn't so firm and said to Jess, we're going back to the hospital now, like literally now, then things could have been a lot worse. We definitely wouldn't have been able to give birth back at home from a home birth, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to follow any sort of instructions from a midwife over the phone.
But again, couldn't have done that anyway because it was breech.
Exactly. So everything happens for a reason, doesn't it?
Yeah, but in my head, like,
Read him so.
I feel angry.
Oh, nice. Nice little pup.
I feel angry, and I feel, I don't know, a bit cheated.
If you do tell a baby.
Oh.
Get ready for all the doo-doos and the yellow poo-poo and all that sort of stuff.
But anyway, he is the best thing ever. It was not the birth that we expected. It is not what I had planned. But I did have preferences for a C-section, and they did not follow any of that. Obviously, I don't know if that's because it was emergency. But I didn't have like my dim lights. I didn't have any music playing. It was nothing like what I wanted. But he is, so that's all that matters. Hey! So that's the birth story. I would definitely recommend hypnobirthing. I would definitely recommend.
I'd definitely recommend mentally to prepare for
anything.
An alternative.
Even if the midwives are telling you that baby's head down, prepare that baby may not be head down, because even the professionals can sometimes get it wrong.
Yeah.
I would have actually gone for a scan a bit later, I would definitely recommend going for a scan at like 35 to 37 weeks if you can, like a private one, just to see your baby and to see where baby is, because obviously they're just feeling, they don't actually know for sure. Obviously within my case, they don't know for 100%, so I would definitely recommend going to get a private scan just in case. What's Daddy doing? But yeah, so I was really angry and I was really upset for a very long time. I still am angry. I made a complaint to the hospital, and they told me someone would ring me, and it's been about 2 weeks and no one's rang me.
We haven't been discharged yet.
We haven't been discharged yet because there's so many COVID cases. So I guess this is the same for a lot of maybe new mums.
I think this is just a way for us to explain our story and to help people in the same sort of situation, to what to expect during COVID conditions, but also what to expect for the alternative.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a massive shock to us. We didn't expect any of this to happen, and that was one of the first things. I'm not really a massive fan of doing a lot of videos and stuff like that, am I? But
no, so with the hypnobirthing, it was kind of like, I wanted to do it. Obviously, Liam had to do it with me because the birth partner is such a major part of it. But like, Liam wasn't solely into it. He did. You got into it, but
I did. But what I'm saying is that I'm not a massive one for videos in kind of trying to explain stories and stuff like that. But this is something that I really felt passionate about, trying to share this experience so people. Like yourselves, if you're going through any sort, even if you haven't had a baby, or you're thinking about having a baby in the future, or just to kind of bear in mind that the worst can happen, and that
you can honestly, it's the worst. It's an alternative, an unexpected alternative could happen.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like I said, all throughout I was told he was head down, and all that information was incorrect. So me preparing for a vaginal birth was.
Have we got them, wasn't it?
No.
So other than that, the best and the worst experience in my life. He's a blessing. I absolutely love dad life. Wouldn't change it for the world. It's the most rewarding thing ever. A lot of sleepless nights, but he's amazing, and I am so overwhelmed with love. Not just for little Dre, but for Jess as well. I have a lot of respect for women anyway, as I was brought up with 4, but seeing her go through that is the most empowering thing I've ever witnessed in my life, and to see her go through labour and give birth is a really special thing that I won't forget ever. So shout out to all the incredible strong women out there.
It's actually International Women's Month as well, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
But yeah, we do not know how lucky we have it, men. Just remember that. And until you experience that yourself, then you'll understand where I'm coming from. But yeah, this is our beautiful little boy and our new little family. And yeah, we hope that your experience is a little bit less, what's the word? Whoops.
I don't know. I would say it was all just frantic, but
yeah, a little bit less frantic than what ours was,
explain.
And a better experience.
And do you know what? No matter how amazing that your pregnancy might seem, my pregnancy was absolutely incredible. Sometimes the opposite can happen with the labour. So, well, with the birth, we got the hiccups.
So yeah, there you go. There's our story, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Women, do not be afraid of birth or labour. It's an amazing experience. At the end of it, you get the best gift in the world. But yeah, we've made this video because we just think it's important to be aware of the unexpected, because it can happen, and unfortunately it did in our case. And you know what? It really affected me, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It really, really did affect me, and it will. It probably will forever affect me. But yeah,
and me.
We've got this amazing gift,
but there's a reward
Daddy.
at the end of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Bye.
Bye.